I was kind of thinking, okay, let me just be fully transparent.
Mm-hmm.
So after the loss last night, so the game got over around, 8:45-ish, somewhere around there. I had trouble sleeping, okay? I sat in my bed till about, 11:30, 11:45. Like, I couldn't go to sleep.
You mean the essential oils weren't working?
No, not last night. I was just so, Alec, I was just so
through with it.
Like, it went from the initial, anger of the loss to thinking, bruh, this really happened again in this way to this team.
Same team.
Again, 2 years in a row.
Crazy ending at the end again.
Like, the Cowboys haven't won a divisional playoff game in their last 7 tries.
Longest streak since the merger.
Like, they haven't fell into one of these things by accident in the last 7 tries.
Yeah, you can put it like this. You can say the 49ers have not won a Super Bowl since the year before the Cowboys last won the Super Bowl, but they've at least been in the Super Bowl twice this century.
Mark Sanchez has been to the AFC Championship game twice in the span that the Cowboys have done it. Joe Burrow and the Bengals have gone to back-to-back AFC title games in the Super Bowl before the Cowboys even made it to an NFC Championship game.
Yep.
That's just some of the historical context. I saw a funny tweet last night, and it's been like different versions of it, but something to the effect of Jalen Hurts was like born, grew up, learned how to play football, squat 600 pounds, played for a bazillion schools, and then went to the Eagles and still went to the NFC title game before the Dallas Cowboys did. Like, I've had to learn how to laugh through some of this because of how painful it is. But Todd Archer crystallized it even more because he put together the unrestricted free agent list for the Dallas Cowboys, and it goes a little something like this: Anthony Barr, Anthony Brown, Noah Brown, Dante Fowler, Luke Gifford, C.J. Goodwin, Jonathan Hankins, T.Y. Hilton, Brett Maher, Connor McGovern, Jake McQuaid, Matt Overton, Jason Peters, Tony Pollard, Cooper Rush, Dalton Schultz, Leighton Vander Esch, Carlos Watkins, and Donovan Wilson as well. The restricted free agents, only a couple of those. Rico Dowdle, and, by the way, Terrence Steele.
Terrence Steele, rather, yeah.
Terrence Steele.
Mm-hmm. He ain't going nowhere.
So it got me to thinking, oh boy, is this it for this version of the Dallas Cowboys? Because Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott been at it for 7 years now. They moved on from Amari Cooper. Didn't feel like it was worth paying him the $20 million.
That wouldn't it?
That's another conversation for another day.
And by the way, they could have used another wide receiver last night.
Let's not even talk about it. And then, of course, La'el Collins, which in a lot of ways they were proven to be right on that move. But you just look around and say, man, this could, and not having even mentioned the fact that Dan Quinn most likely not going to be here.
And guess what?
Getting a head coaching job.
If he leaves, look who he takes with him. That's what's scary.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Donovan Wilson went with him because he's.
I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about assistant coaches on that defensive side.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
There may be some that goes with him. If Dan Quinn does leave, I would expect a guy like Joe Witt Jr. to be elevated.
You say that.
That would be my hope and expectation, is that Joe Witt would be elevated to the defensive coordinator.
You don't know where they're going if they say, "Hey, Joe Witt, I want you to be my defensive coordinator here," and we already work together.
Yeah, I mean, there's that possibility.
The name I'm thinking of though is George Edwards. I think he will become the defensive coordinator. He was the defensive coordinator for the Vikings before he came to the Cowboys, and he basically has just been kind of like an advisor, even though he could do it if he wanted to. I just hate the turnover on the defensive side of the ball with the coaches if Dan Quinn were to leave, because people forget about the assistant coaches. Because I'm telling you, that's what happens. They take 4 or 5 with them.
And it's interesting that you say that because also coming from Todd Archer earlier today, the Cowboys have a number of coaches on expiring deals, although not any of them are their 3 coordinators. So among those out of contract as of now, Joe Philbin, the offensive line coach, running backs coach Skip Peete, quarterbacks coach Doug Nussmeier.
Nussmeier might be gone.
Assistant D-line coach Leon Lett.
He's going to be around.
And senior defensive assistant George Edwards. All of them out of contract right now, maybe looking to go elsewhere. But the ultimate question and overall theme of this conversation is this the final time, and is this it for this version of the Dallas Cowboys?
In the words of New Edition, their first hit, is this the end? Are you my friend? I'm going to stop it for your time. I think you're going to see some turnover, but I don't see it's going to. I really can't see it being dramatic as it was last year because the Amari Cooper thing was just out of the. It was just unbelievable. And then they actually thought that they were going to keep Randy Gregory. They just going to throw a bunch of money at it, and he said, "No, it's the clause in the contract." And they wound up restructuring Tank Lawrence's deal, even though they were going to throw that money at Randy Gregory. I think you're going to see Stephen Jones say about the salary cap, but it's all about free agency first week. He's not going to go after big names. They call themselves a draft and development team now, and that's where Will McClay gets to play. They won't let Will McClay sign first round. I mean, when I say that, because it's Stephen and Jerry. They own the team, and Stephen like to have his fingerprints all over stuff. Will makes these calls, but Will is not going to get to play in the first week of free agency. They're going to just augment. That's their philosophy. With that being said, we already know that Ezekiel is going to take a pay cut. We already know this. I've been talking about it, and you just got the word from Michael Gelkin that he's got a source officially that he's willing to take the pay cut, and they want him on this roster. Tony Pollard, they're going to franchise tag him. In all likelihood, it's not going to be an outrageous amount of money, but it's going to be some good money because somebody would be willing to overpay him. Just like they were afraid somebody was going to overpay Dalton Schultz last year. Dalton Schultz is gone. As soon as they franchised him last year, I knew he was going to be gone for this year, which is why they drafted those two tight ends, a.k.a. Ferguson, the two guys. And for those who say, oh, they're going to miss Dalton Schultz, you thought that about Witten, and you thought about the guy in between Schultz and Witten. Remember? I forget the guy's name, got hurt. The tight end before. He was with Schultz last year.
Blake Jarwin.
Mm-hmm. Everybody thought it was going to be Blake Jarwin's job, and he got hurt all the time. Dalton Schultz surprised everybody by being able to catch the ball, not just being a blocking tight end. This is what's going to happen with Ferguson and Hendershot. You're going to find that look, they're going to be fine. You saw some moments this year where you just have to trust it. And at the same time, they really need to find another wide receiver. Michael Gallup is the guy that they threw money at, and he didn't show up this year. And I love Michael Gallup, but he didn't. I don't know if it was psychological. I don't know if it was still coming overcoming that knee injury or the knee surgery.
Mm-hmm.
All I can tell you is they are short a wide receiver because they shouldn't have never let Amari Cooper go. And I'm going to say this again for everybody who keeps acting like, well, if Amari were here, you wouldn't have saw the step that CeeDee Lamb took. Yes, you would have. And you can have both of them. You can. Atlanta used to do it all the time. You had Ridley and you had Julio Jones. Come on. Don't act like you can't. Look at Philadelphia right now. You got A.J. Brown and you've got Smith.
Yeah, Devontae Smith.
Come on. Now, don't act like you can't have two dominant X's. You can. That's what they were missing. So, yeah, I think it's going to be different. And I also am not going to say Dan Quinn is definitely gone. It depends on what the location is. He doesn't have to take any old job just to be the head coach. He's making head coach money right now. He could, if it was a mess like the Indianapolis Colts, I don't think he goes. I'm just saying.
It's going to be very.
It depends on how much power he would get.
Yeah, I look. I'm been on record saying I fully expect Dan Quinn to get one of these jobs and land somewhere as a head coach. I mean, he's built this defense to be very, very good the last couple of years. And I feel like this is going to be a defensive head coaching cycle when you look at some of the hot names that are out there, whether it be, DeMeco Ryans, Jonathan Gannon, Dan Quinn, some of these names that you're hearing me manted about. But more so on the personnel side, you look at, and Will McClay, who was just on the Cowboys Hour, detailing what the Cowboys, are going to be looking to do. And he says that the Cowboys, their draft strategy to look at, they're never just one player away. And the way that they drafted, you trust Will McClay in a lot of ways to be able to help put this team together. But my goodness, from a personnel standpoint, this is why I felt that the sense of urgency was so high for this version of this team to go deep into the playoffs because of how differently they could look going into next year. Because there's no guarantee, while it may look like that Tony Pollard gets franchise tagged, there's no guarantee that he comes back. Dalton Schultz, I don't necessarily expect him to come back. I think he's played his way contract-wise out of what the Cowboys are willing to pay for him. But we're just talking about the unrestricted and restricted free agents with guys like Terrence Steele being a restricted free agent. What about Tyron Smith? Has Tyron Smith possibly played his last game as a Dallas Cowboy?
He's not hurt right now.
Not just because he's hurt or was hurt, but the wear and tear and all the things that he's done with his body over the last, decade and how much money you're paying him. Does he?
They're not paying him too much money. Remember, they underpaid him.
Well, my point is, that's just another personnel that you have to think about, whether it be Ezekiel, Elliott.
I ain't worried about
Tyron Smith.
Let me tell you why again about Tyron Smith, because you brought that up. Only he retires if he's injured. I mean, if he retires. If he says he's going to retire, yeah. I don't see him getting cut. Cap goes up. And he doesn't make crazy money. He's underpaid. They stole him when they signed that contract. Everybody said that. Man, Tyron got ripped off. Good as he is.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the other intrigue of the offensive line going into next year, too, because you had Tyler Smith emerging as the rookie over there on the left side, and you expect Terrence Steele to be back there at right tackle. Do you move?
He's not a swing tackle.
No, I'm talking about Tyler Smith. Do you move him back? You kick him inside to left guard? And then what do you do if Connor Montgomery, if you move on from him? So there's a lot of decisions that have to be made on that offensive line as well. But I don't know. I feel very, very lukewarm about what this future of this team looks like relative to what they weren't able to accomplish in the first 7 years of Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott's tenure here. Medford, where are you on this? Do you think this is it for this version of the Cowboys based on their way that they're currently constructed?
It's tough because I'm kind of with CA here. It's more so the coaching personnel that I'm concerned about. I feel like a lot of these key contributors are going to be back. I mean, on the Cowboys Hour with Brad Cham and Haley Sutton, Will McClay openly said, Tony Pollard, that's a guy that we did not expect to see have this emergence, and he's at the top of the list. Leighton Vander Esch played above expectations. I feel like the important
He's going to make some
guys,
money, too.
Yeah, and I hope that's a multi-year deal to keep him around, because then you don't have to worry about the linebackers as much as you did 2 years ago. I feel like there are going to be some important differences, but I don't think it's going to be game-wrecking. I don't think it's going to be franchise-altering.
This is what I think, and great point, Alex. This is what I think is going to happen, because they've showed their hand. I'm talking about Steven and Jerry, as they've talked about how they're looking at the body of work. They're not going to make a snap decision based off of what they did not do in the playoffs. They're going to look at a 12-5 season for the second year in a row. And they're going to look at the fact that, okay, who has played well? Well, there's a lot of parts that played very well this year as opposed to last year where you didn't trust what was going to happen. And then when they lost to the 49ers, like, see, we told you. That wasn't the case this year, which is why yesterday's loss was more painful. They're going to look at the whole season and say, okay, this is what we were doing right, and this guy is a fit here, and this guy's a fit there. There's too many fits. And this leads me to, they know they need another wide receiver. And this leads me to Dak Prescott and how I was teasing earlier, why he was throwing so many picks this year. If you look at Dak's history, you already know he does not have arm talent like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. He's not one of those top 5 guys with arm talent. He's a very smart guy, though. He's a leader. He's all those other things. He's got intangibles. He's a top 10 quarterback. His contract is big. He's not going anywhere. But this is what you have to understand about his interceptions. They told him, Mike McCarthy's talked about this on Sean and RJ's show. They told him he's got to take more risks. They told him at the start of the season, the risk reward has to be greater. Because guess what? When Dak Prescott was a rookie and they won those 11 straight games and he was the NFC's Offensive Rookie of the Year, how many picks did he throw? 4. That's it. Everybody knows he never leads a receiver, does he? In fact, some of his passes over his 7 years have been here, they're sometimes behind the wide receiver. He is not that accurate. But guess what? He's very, very smart. And he knew that those defenses last year, from the Denver game on, the blueprint was, okay, we're going to flood the secondary. Dak ain't going to throw it. That's why Dalton Schultz got all of his yards. That's why he got 800 yards receiving, because Dak would dump it off because he dared not throw a pick. He was turnover adverse. That was his history. And this year, Mike McCarthy said, you're going to have to take some more chances. You're going to have to be risk. Even when he would throw the picks, and lose the games, or the game with Houston where it came down. He said, I have got to make better decisions. Where he was leaning towards the risk.
Yeah.
He's going to micromanage this. He's a very smart guy. He's got 2 degrees. He's going to look at, he already said this last night. I'm going to look at all those picks that I've thrown, and I'm going to find out why. I'm going to break down it's going to drive him crazy. And guess what he's going to wind up doing? He's probably going to be more conservative again. And if he's going to be more conservative again, you better give him another damn Amari Cooper type receiver who runs perfect routes. And you better have a running back, Pollard, who's going to get those defenses in a box. Because that's the only way he's going to take the chances. Because he's not going to throw that. He already told you.
Yeah.
He's not going to throw that many picks again. And the only reason he was throwing those picks was because he was taking chances that the coach said, it's okay. You've got to take those chances for us to move the ball down the field. He ain't going to get burned like that no more. He's going to go back to Dak Prescott, Mr. Conservative. I'm just saying. Does it work? I don't know. But you're going to see that.